Hello.
Hello, that caught me unawares. I swear the timer didn't hit 0.
They threw a curveball to knock us off our guard, but no worries. We're here now. Welcome back to the Shadow Proclamation. My name's Thomas, and I'm joined by
Paul.
And this is our long overdue Season 7 review, because we've now just finished Season 8, haven't we?
I know, it's just... I don't know where we fell off track on these reviews. We were very on the ball in the early seasons. We need to get better at this. So I hopefully we'll get Season 8, the review, out relatively soon as well, because I feel like we shouldn't have finished another season.
After
yes, we'll just roll straight into it, shall we? Like...
Well, welcome everyone. We've got some people jumping in the chat. Bobby Dazzler. Good evening. What will Thomas bring along to eat? I don't actually have anything. I've got some Tesco tortilla chips, lightly salted, on the floor over there, which I may be dipping into. Paul Hunter, welcome. And who else do we have? John G. Sam Wilkes, hello, good to see you. Kyle Taylor, welcome. And we'll be interacting with your comments and questions throughout the live stream, so feel free to jump in the chat and play nice, people. We know you will. How are you doing, Paul?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, thank you. I've just into a slightly new work season, what with back to school and all that kind of stuff, so new terms and stuff. And my hours.
You were still in school.
I know. Well, I'm very behind. So you think our reviews are behind? You should see my education. Into the work schedule again, and my hours have just changed a bit. So actually, as of tomorrow, as of today, really, I'm basically got tomorrow off now, which is quite nice. So I'm kind of heading towards what looks like almost a 3-day weekend. So I'm hoping that will make life a little bit nicer in the long term.
That's good.
Yeah.
Are we sounding all right, people? I think last time one of us was a bit too loud, so let us know if how the levels are, because the meter we have in here to tell us the audio level isn't very precise. So let us know if it's distracting. But
and
season 7.
Sorry, I was going to say, is all good with you? All well with you?
Oh yeah. Things are going well, thank you. Yeah. Today was actually quite hot, which was good.
It has been warm today.
Yeah, because I was sort of gearing up for the winter months. Autumn first. That autumn comes first, doesn't it? Yeah.
Normally, yeah.
But it was a nice surprise to have a bit of sun. And just got back from youth group. We were doing wheelbarrow races and the game where you have to count to 30 without interrupting each other, which...
Oh, yeah, I know.
Playing with a group of young people is a nightmare because they couldn't get past sort of 5.
5? Yeah. That's pretty good, 5, That's...
Nice. Oh, thanks, Sam. And people confirming we're sounding right. Well, that's good.
It's good
so
to know.
Season 7, man, it feels like a while ago that we started that, Spearhead from Space. Did you enjoy it, watching it again? You've seen it before, I guess.
What, Spearhead from Space or Season 7 as a whole?
Season 7 as a whole.
Season 7 as a whole, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I did. I don't think... I've maybe said this a few times during the whole experiment that although I've seen all the stories, there's a lot of ones I haven't necessarily watched them in order. I don't think I would have ever seen Season 7 straight through like this. I mean, I can say definitely I've never watched it straight through like we have then. I'd only seen Ambassadors of Death once anyway. But yeah, I think it's a really strong season. I think it's all good stuff, but very different to what's gone before. I mean, yeah. What about you? Do you have sort of your thoughts, initial thoughts coming through it?
Yeah, it was quite nice for me because as we started watching it, I sent a frame of the Doctor falling out of the TARDIS in the first episode. I sent that to my family, and my parents were like, "Oh yes, Pertwee, he was our Doctor."
Right.
So that's been quite cool to kind of sort of hear some of their thoughts on what they can remember from it growing up. And yeah, obviously the dawn of colour in Doctor Who, which is it's been interesting. I mean, you obviously notice it at first, and then you very quickly get used to it, don't you? And then when you go back and rewatch them shouting and
Is it just me, or has your audio gone a bit funny, Thomas?
oh, has it?
You sounded like you disappeared through some water somewhere.
Oh, right.
Oh, you're back. There you are.
I am underwater right now. I don't know if you can tell.
Yeah. Oh, so it's not just me. Might be where you were sitting. I don't know where you've got to stay close to the mic. I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's quite directional.
Yeah, that's lovely and crisp now again. So
nice. I'll chat into the mic like this. Late night radio.
It's like ASMR, this, isn't
it? But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I liked the simplicity of the fact that it's all on Earth, and well, even more restricted than that, not even traveling in time. So it's kind of you're taking out the time travel and the space travel, which was a bold move, but it meant that you could really establish the unit. Well, we didn't have so much the unit family at that point, did we? But the Brigadier, very much a regular feature.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's very much in its infancy, isn't it? I feel like when knowing the Pertwee era, knowing what the Pertwee era is like for a lot of it, I think of it as sort of the unit family era, and it has all those connotations and those characters around it and that feeling that comes with it. And I think in that first season, it's just you've got the bits that are there. You've got the Brigadier and you've got Unit and that kind of thing going on, but it's not fully fledged yet. So on that front, it doesn't feel like it's quite there yet for me.
Okay.
Because I think because it's not until that obviously you do get Sergeant Benton, don't you? He does crop up in like Inferno. I'm not sure if he does appear earlier. I don't think he's not hugely. I mean, I know he's been in the Invasion and stuff, but I'm not sure he's hugely referenced as a character in season 7.
I'm just trying to remember the first time we said Benton.
Yeah, and then of course you don't get Mike Yates until series 8. So that for me that feels like Unit Family. So it's kind of there in its infancy. There. Yeah. So, but season 7 is an odd season in that it is. Oh, there you go. John G said Benton is in Ambassadors. I suppose am I right in thinking though that he just doesn't? He's not quite as visible as he becomes later. Maybe. But season 7 just feels very different anyway.
Yeah.
It's obviously like you've said is we're grounded, and then it has its own kind of look and feel that isn't quite the same as what we get when we get into season 8 and that following it. So it's an anomaly by itself, but it's a good anomaly. It's not a kind of bad one.
Yeah. A nice surprise and not a nasty surprise.
And actually, Simon Bedford there saying Unit feel very different, grittier, and more importantly, beiger. That's true. They are.
I thought he just misspelt bigger. But,
no, they are in beige,
beiger,
for the whole time.
Of course. Yeah.
Yes, and they do feel a bit grittier, and then you kind of get the more sort of family warmth, the kind of warm, comfy feel from season 8 onwards, I think, in terms of Unit, which is kind of what I like. But that's not to say I have a real issue with season 7 at all. It's just a different thing. So.
Yeah, it's kind of the Unit family in embryonic form, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Well, should we go through each story quickly and chat about some thoughts, and then answer questions from the chat, and then go on to questions that people have sent in? Does that sound like a?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, if you've got questions as we go through, you can pop them on the chat, and we'll try and deal with as much as we can. Yeah. So I mean, why don't you talk a bit about Spearhead from Space? Because obviously, I mean, I'd seen it before, but you're coming into it. It's a whole new thing, isn't it? Because we've got a new Doctor, we've got the new sort of setting that we're landed with. We've got the new theme, like new titles and stuff. It's in colour. Yeah, I mean, what are your looking back? What are your thoughts on that story?
Well, and that one was unique as well because it was shot on film, wasn't it?
Ah, yeah, of course, yeah.
Was it Rebecca pointed that out? Yeah. So it looked gorgeous, didn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
To go from black and white to not just colour but shot on film for that first story, absolutely stunning. I think for me the thing that stood out was partly the just getting to know Pertwee and the fact that he's kind of incapacitated for quite a lot of it, isn't he?
Yeah, at least I mean the first episode, is he completely unconscious for almost the first episode? Give or take?
Yeah, I think so. And so it makes him a kind of a bit of an enigma. And I love how you have human doctors trying to make sense of him, and they're like, his biology is alien, obviously, and that's a great way kind of to just show the alien nature of the Doctor, put him in a human hospital. And I loved the Autons. I think they were scarier than, because obviously I know them from the modern era. The first episode of the modern era, in fact,
Yep.
Rose. I think they were scarier because you pointed out at the time the way they move is much. They don't move in a kind of stilted way. It's like it is living kind of plastic, isn't it? So they actually run quite fast, but they still have these very rigid-looking faces. And just seeing them jump out, and I at the time said they looked kind of golden. I don't think they were actually golden, but they almost looked like they had a kind of fake tan.
Yeah.
But there was something very unnerving about like seeing one in a car, like turn around. And did we have that, or was that a later Autons?
No, you're thinking of Terror of the Autons for that one, but
I am. Was there any in a car at any point? Oh no, it was one was hit by a car, wasn't it?
no, that's also Terror of the Autons. This is why we do the season review after the season's finished, and not after another season gone.
I might go back and check that. You're telling me there wasn't a single incident involving a collision, a car colliding with a...
I don't think so. You've got Autons, you've got mostly in those blue overalls in a sort of countryside setting. There was that old farmer and his wife, and then there was the factory sort of setting for them as well.
Yeah.
And of course the Autons breaking through the glass in that final... I'm not sure it's the final episode or the last but one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's obviously the iconic shot, isn't it?
Someone does say the unit Jeep collided with an Auton. There is that shot, isn't there? Because that was one of the things that stood out for me, is that it crashes off the road, doesn't it? And you get the blood on the windscreen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the bit I was referring to.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, I thought you were... Because you just mentioned Terror of the Autons, like, turning around in the car, and then...
Oh, obviously, yeah, but that bit, the turning around.
We've got that stunt, haven't we, in the quarry, which comes to... we'll get to in Season 8, I'm sure.
Yeah, so you enjoyed it. Terror of the Spearhead.
Terror of the Space, Spearhead of the Autons. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's probably one of the strongest stories in all of Doctor Who, just in terms of... I mean, the way it looks, because of it being on film, is gorgeous, but just the Auton design, as you said, is really scary. There's something about the sort of sunken eyes that... I don't know, there's something just really unnerving about it. I think you also referenced that they have a sort of Michael Myers-esque movement, you know.
Yeah, we talked about that at the time, didn't we?
But not just in the way they move, but also the boiler suit is very sort of Michael Myers-esque, isn't it? From sort of Halloween series. Yeah, and obviously anytime you know, as a kid, having bought that on video, you're buying it knowing it's the first story of a new Doctor. So that was always exciting, you know, if you're getting a first story of a new Doctor or the last story. I mean, perhaps last story is even more exciting than new, than the first one. But yeah, I think it's interesting it'll be interesting to see what we think, how we think Pertwee's Doctor develops over the sort of seasons he's in.
Yeah.
Because I think during that story, again, there's a sense, to me at least, that he doesn't feel like he's quite done yet. And then I think we're going to see him change a lot more. But yeah, I think it's a really good story. The thing that struck me is that it's such a radical reinvention of the show, isn't it? The show always tinkers, and I don't think I'd realised until we were watching it in order how big a jump it is from the end of season 6 to season 7. I guess because when I first saw Spearhead from Space and episodes from that season, I always had the knowledge of what came after, and the show. You know, I know what it looks like. I know what Pertwee's like. I know what Tom Baker's like, and all the other Doctors. Those things are all established, but so I sort of readily accepted what Spearhead from Space and season 7 kind of looks like, I guess. But it's kind of struck me, you know, that I wonder how sort of jarring it was for people at the time. Because I know, like we've talked a bit about sort of the new Doctor Who at the moment, where we've got Ncuti Gatwa and sort of the Disney kind of involvement, and there's, you know, questions about how involved Disney really are, but just that it feels like a slightly different show again now. It's, you know, it's RTD doing it again, but doesn't feel like the first time he did it. It feels very different.
RTD2.
And it's not a reinvention so far that I've really, really loved.
Yeah.
But it strikes me that the change to season 7 is almost a bigger jump than that. I can see. I wonder whether would people have turned off? Maybe they wouldn't have turned off because there was less to watch anyway. I don't know. But for me, like I say, I've never thought of it as being such a big jump because for me, the show is what it is. I knew what the show was for the rest of the 26 years of the classic series. But if you'd only had Hartnell and Troughton up to that point, and the show that operated it, and up to that point, it very much looks like still like a stage play quite a lot, doesn't it? Being played out on screen. Suddenly it changes to something very different, where it's no more time and space traveling. It's all set in one place. It's a different Doctor. I don't know whether it would have. I don't know how people would have reacted to it. Clearly, I mean, the show carried on, but I wonder whether some people went, "Oh, it's not really what it was anymore. I'm off." But I don't know.
Yeah, that's very interesting because a lot of Hartnell and Troughton, I mean, they have some great storytelling and character development in there, but it does feel like part of it was we need to give the audience a different kind of world with each story and show them lots of crazy planets and aliens and, you know, kind of jumping all over the place. Maybe Troughton, it probably maybe less so when it started to use the base Under Siege format. It was less about that and more about growing the kind of Doctor companion relationships. Whereas, it's like the locations, they look great in season 7, but they are very recognizably sort of grounded kind of quarries and just, you know, the unit kind of area. It's like, oh, we're not in an alien world now. We're kind of on Earth, and there are aliens, but it's much more Earth centric, isn't it?
Anywhere in time or space, as long as it's somewhere in the southeast of England in the 1970s. Yes, but then I think also that works in its favour, doesn't it? In a lot of ways, because we've said a number of times, you know, the classic Jon Pertwee quote about, you know, the Yeti on your loo in Tooting Beck is more scary than some random thing in space you can't identify with. So that grounding of it gives it a sort of scariness that makes it more real, I suppose, particularly for the younger viewer. I suppose the children watching, they're more likely. You know, if you see Autons smashing through glass windows on a recognisable part of a London high street, I mean that's quite something, isn't it?
That's scary. Yeah, that's so true. Some fantasy writer, I forget who said it, but he was talking about when you have a character who's basically magic, what's more interesting than the magic in itself is their limitations, or the limitations of that magic, or what happens if you take that magic away from them. So Superman is often seen as a slightly lazy example of this. He invented kryptonite for some reason it reduces his power. But like taking the Doctor's TARDIS away from it, having a story reason as to why he can't use his TARDIS is interesting. And actually, often when you restrict yourself creatively, you end up being more creative. When you take away, options, weirdly, it gives you more kind of scope for what you can do with little, doesn't it? It's kind of hard to explain, but so very good. See story 2, Doctor Who and the Silurians. You loved the fact that it had Doctor Who in the title, didn't you?
Oh dear, yeah, one of my slight pet gripes there. Yeah, I mean, the thing that really jumps out at me immediately as I just think back to this story, I mean, obviously the design of the Silurians, I feel slightly sad that that never quite made it into the modern era. Um, but the thing that really sticks in my mind from that story is the what some people would probably describe as the absolutely atrocious soundtrack. Um, what was the
The
what was
Crumhorn,
the Crumhorn?
the Victor Crumhorn.
Yeah, yes. Um, no, I mean, for some people will have hated that. But it's so distinctive that now when I think of that story, I can't not hear that Crumhorn.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, I mean, it's another great story, isn't it? Um,
yeah,
just and we get some of that. Looking back over my notes, there, sort of. You've got the brigadier and sort of like a bit of banter and stuff. You know, beginning to see elements of that. And I think we talked at the time, didn't we, about the? Did we say the notion of, you know, these are two species who are claiming a right to the same space.
yeah.
We said it felt very pertinent, didn't we? Like, you know, what with obviously things sort of in the Middle East and things like that. And I think someone might have said in the comments at the time that there may have been things going on politically around the time this was shown that it tied in with as well. So, you know, it's what I really love about it is it's a great example of Doctor Who dealing with real issues. But there's no moment where anyone turns around and does the classic down the camera almost kind of, here's the moral of the story for this week, children. You're kind of left to make up your own mind at the end there. And because you got that rather the ending, haven't you, where the Brigadier blows them up and the Doctor is like, that's murder.
Yeah,
and it kind of ends on a rather somber note, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a really powerful ending actually. But Paul, remember, if you don't explain the message in it, people might not get it.
Yes. Now that's a reference to something someone said about about the new era. Like, but you have to make it clear because otherwise people might not get it. And you think, yeah, but is that the point of these shows? Like to ram a message down people's throat, or sounds like you think the message is the most important thing above the entertainment value? But I don't know.
Yeah, no, yeah, but there was a lot going on in there, as you say, wasn't there? Like the whole who are the real monsters here was kind of a question that I suppose I'm quite used to the modern era raising, but it was interesting to see that again in embryonic form. In this story, yeah, and I agree. I think the design was nice, and again another monster that I knew from the modern era, but looks very different in the modern era with the Silurians, doesn't it?
Yeah, very different. And I think they're coming back again. I think there's been a couple of shots.
Oh, really?
Promotional shots coming around for season. What season are we on now? Would it be 15 or 14? Season 2 of whatever they're calling it now. Similar design still to the ones we've had since the show came back. I was just looking through my... Go on, sorry.
If it was today, the Doctor would say to the camera, don't blow things up, killing.
It can feel a little bit like that sometimes, can't it? The other thing I was going to mention was that you've got that plague thing, haven't you? About how this plague gets out and spreads around, and you had people sort of dropping in the streets, didn't you, in central London?
That was quite confronting. Was it Marylebone Station they filmed it?
Yeah, it might have been. Can't remember off the top of my head. But we also had Jeffrey Palmer, didn't we? The guy who plays the captain in the Titanic, Voyage of the Damned. He was in the Silurian episode. So he succumbs, doesn't he, to the plague. And I think we said at the time that this sort of a plague sweeping through also felt very pertinent to us, given the last few years and what we'd experienced. Yeah,
totally. So strong. So already, yeah, Spearhead from Space, Doctor and the Silurians. Like we both thought those were solid stories. Whatever some misgivings we might have, and I understand if people don't like the Crumhorn, because I think we're about the only people who do, and Sam Wilkes. Like, you know, solid. They didn't feel like it were dragging. I was really engaged throughout all the episodes. Like at this point in the season, we were like very strong.
And of course, there was the what she saw in the barn. Remember?
In the barn.
Draw what you saw.
Oh man,
Dear me.
We were gone at that point, weren't we?
I think so.
Often are.
Very childish. Very childish. No.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. So then we had the Ambassadors of Death, Charlie.
Yes.
Charlie bit my finger. Hey, Carl Taylor loves the Crumhorn as well. Yeah, Ambassadors for Death. I seem to remember I enjoyed it overall. I think it maybe felt like it dragged in places, but I loved the setup of, you know, the rocket coming back, and then these very ominous figures, and you don't see them much, do you? What's under the helmets? You see a very brief shot of beautiful blue one. That was quite a terrifying moment, wasn't it? And the way they kind of kill, like the shots of them walking with the sun behind them, killing people, sort of just with a touch. I found it weirdly disturbing. And was that the one that introduced the sting, or had we had that in the previous two stories?
I think it did pop up in that story. Yeah, I think that
it was so good. That
yeah, which it's, you know, and that is worth a mention, isn't it? Because it becomes such a integral part of the show and the theme tune, that without having that at the end of a cliffhanger almost feels wrong now. I mean, you saying about them walking, you know, you got those shots of them walking. There's some really good shots in there of that, and I think what we also get in this, through the whole season, is this whole show feels a lot more, because there's a lot more location shooting. Just it feels a lot grander. I think because it's not stuck in just a little set in a tiny studio somewhere. Yeah. It takes on, you know, I mean, maybe cinematic is a slightly grandiose term, but it certainly is a much bigger scale and scope for the show. And so, yeah, episodes like that where you get all these great outside shots. I think we had there was a lot of location shooting, wasn't there, through everything, which is a real part, you know, one of the glorious parts of the whole Pertwee era, and, you know, indeed season 7 itself. But yeah, I mean, as I approach Ambassador Death, it's the one I've seen least out of all the stories. Probably only seen it, I think, once in full, in its entirety, before we watched it again. So I couldn't remember much about it, and a lot of people, as we were approaching it, were saying like, "Oh, you know, this is a great season. Ambassadors, you know, in the middle and so on."
Right.
And so I wasn't really sure what I was going to make of it, and I actually quite enjoyed it. And I think some people said they felt that Ambassadors only suffers because it's part of such a good season, that it's a great story, but it's surrounded by excellent stories. So in comparison, it can feel a little off. But then other people love it and think it's, you know, absolutely brilliant. So it's by no means a duff story in the season at all.
No.
And you're right that there was some very, I think I saw Sam Wilkes put about some great cliffhangers and stuff, and the one that really stuck out to me was at the end of episode 2, where they've got the capsule and the doctor says, "Cut it open." Like,
yes, Ron G says,
yeah, there we go. Right, cut it open. There we go. Absolutely. See.
I vividly remember watching that. It was just a great cliffhanger. And imagine having to wait a week to resolve that. So painful.
Yeah, and I think it also, just looking back through my notes, it also had a couple of other things that worked really nicely. So in the first episode, we had the sort of news reporter as the narrator of what was going on, which is a similar thing to what we got in The Demons, wasn't it? Matt Damon's having the sort of BBC TV show presenter kind of narrating things as well in some ways. So little things like that are really neat touches, which allow you to do kind of exposition-y things, but in a way that feels pretty natural and not forced in.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of good. I mean, just looking as well here, there was we had a lot of good action stuff, didn't we? Through it, we had those vans with the number plates and the sides that changed. We had, the truck being ambushed as they were taking the capsule back to wherever.
Yeah, that was quite an impressive bit of action, wasn't it? I remember watching it and I was like, this wouldn't look out of place in an action film from the time.
Yeah,
pretty decent.
We had the guys coming down from helicopters with those masks on and stuff. I mean, helicopters are the thing now in Doctor Who. You've got to have a helicopter from.
Don't you mean helicopter?
Indeed.
Yeah. So yeah, no, a really interesting one. And again, just I can imagine how if you watch that as a kid, some things in there would really lodge in your mind as being quite scary. But then we had the masterpiece, Inferno.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for me, I think Inferno is probably I said at the time, it's one of my favourites of the whole classic era anyway.
Controversial. Paul Hunter, Inferno doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think maybe Paul Hunter, who said this initially in comments, that it's just a story about drilling and then suddenly they chuck in this other bit to keep it going. But I loved it. I thought it was really good. And I love the whole alternate.
Paul likes drilling, and then a little bit where they go elsewhere. And then
That's how I would spend. We need more drilling in Doctor Who. That's what we need. That's what. If I ever meet Russell again.
That's your bit, isn't it?
Doctor Who needs more drilling. Have you thought of putting more drills in Doctor Who? Yeah, I mean, it's a great episode again, and there's lots of great action in it. The location is phenomenal. There's this weird... There's something about it. I don't know... Again, the way everything is shot, there's this weird sort of... Did I say it during Inferno or another story that what we have in the Pertwee era feels like this weird kind of... It's grounded in reality, but it's also this slightly futuristic, slightly dystopian thing going on as well, because you've got these space projects going on and this drilling thing, and and then you've got this setting where they're on, Pertwee's running around on top of great big kind of silo-y things at this power plant or whatever it is, and but they kind of look like they're in the middle of nowhere. It's like this, almost like this barren wilderness behind them. It just looks great. It's a whole aesthetic in itself that Inferno really has. I mean, the whole season has it, but Inferno really, I think you see a lot of it because you get so much of that outside around the power station type shots.
Yeah. I mean, to speak to Paul Hunter's comment, I think it is an interesting point. Why should I care about an alternate Earth? I think for me, it was certainly. I mean, I have mixed feelings about the multiverse in storytelling. But it was kind of interesting to see it in a kind of 70s Doctor Who story. And it's clearly goes back quite a long way. I mean, It's a Wonderful Life has an alternate reality.
Yeah.
But Wizard of Oz, kind of. But I think what's interesting about it, first of all, I love the phrase when the Doctor says the TARDIS slipped sideways through time. And I think that's such a great way of putting it, because we're used to the idea of the TARDIS going forwards and backwards in time, into the past and the future. But what would it mean for the TARDIS to go sideways in time? And it's like, well, it's the same time, but it's different. And it's like this idea that time is kind of this landscape, and you have north and south and east and west. That's an interesting expansion to the show. And I think I get your point, and why should we care about an alternative Earth? And in a sense, that's sort of where the Doctor lands, isn't it? Because he's like, I've learned from this alternate universe that this is what's going to happen. I can't save these people, but I can save my own universe. And he kind of asks them to help him get him back, doesn't he?
Mm.
But there's kind of a tragedy in that he can't save that alternate timeline. But I think these multiverse stories only work if you have a main universe, if that makes sense, that is the focus. Because otherwise it's just like, well, yeah, anything could happen, then you just go to another universe where everything's identical but people didn't die, and it kind of all becomes a bit too easy to resolve. But yeah, if there's a sense that there's a primary universe the Doctor has to get back to, it's still, for me, it landed that watching it kind of burn up, that was kind of an arresting image, wasn't it? And it was like, yeah, actually, if you wrestle with that, all those people did die, so it's not an easy thing, but it did allow him to save his reality. So yeah.
I wonder if, it, until you get to things like Flux or something in the modern era, could it potentially have one of the biggest body counts of any of any Doctor Who story? Because the whole planet is completely destroyed. Yeah, I mean, the question of why should you care? I mean, I don't know whether it's so much about how much you care about them, but whether what it allows you to do is it shows you what happens when this drill does get to this point, which you can't do in the proper universe, because otherwise everyone's dead and there's no way back from it. So it allows you to show that and the consequences of it. So I think, and then you can kind of translate that, the horror of it, to bringing that into our universe as well. But I mean, I think I did kind of care about the characters, because I think you do. I think Greg and Petra as a little couple are really, you grow to quite like them and find it quite a nice relationship. And there's something about particularly that final scene with the lava rolling towards the shed.
Yeah.
And I think she says, Greg, like she kind of, cries out and stuff. And you've had all the shots of sort of the burning and the orange skies, and it leaves you, well, it certainly left me feeling sort of deeply, I don't know, you feel deeply troubled by it,
Yeah. Yeah.
That, like, there's no way you can hide. Like, there's such despair. Like, you can imagine, it can't show you this, but you can imagine people in their houses, like, sheltering together, just waiting for the end, and there's nothing you can do. So it's almost the horror you imagine from it that makes it worse. Yeah.
And like, how many other realities are there where that happened?
Yes, I guess so. Yeah.
This is pretty scary thought for the show to kind of entertain. But from a storytelling point of view, as you say, it kind of works as here's a vision of what will happen if you don't take action. A bit like the ghost of Christmas future in Christmas Carol, or actually even It's a Wonderful Life. For some reason, Christmas movies keep doing it, but It's a Wonderful Life. Here's what reality would be like if you weren't here. Yeah.
Also, it also, on a slightly lighter note, I enjoyed in that final episode the Doctor awakening from his sort of coma and talking about his very dangerous number 2.
Of course,
number 2
down.
Number 2 output pipe. Very dangerous number 2.
And the green fluid, I remember looking very, very good.
Yeah, and of course you get the creatures themselves. They transform into the primords, although they're never actually called that on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's quite a horrific look, the full transformation. I mean, there's a couple of slightly funny shots halfway through, I think, when Benton sort of is changing into one, and he's kind of part man, part dog, and it doesn't quite. It's not exactly an American Werewolf in London, but
yes,
the finished product is pretty scary, and almost like you've got when they haven't transformed yet, but maybe the Doctor was up on top of the silo, and there's one of the guards he's partly transformed, and they're almost sort of 28 days later-esque, at that stage. These slightly zombie-like creatures. So that works really well, and it had some great stuff in it, didn't it? I think as a story, it's for me, it's a super one.
Yeah, some great lines like I've just looked up a couple to remind myself, but I'll tell you something that should be of vital interest to you, that you, sir, are a nitwit. Also, the one, I can't remember it exactly, but we found it pretty iconic, and well, many people have, where the Doctor is it the Doctor who said that he talks about drilling, like unleashing the kind of the raw forces of the Earth or something.
Yeah, it's the sound of this planet screaming out its rage.
That's it. That was a great line, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff like that.
Yeah, no, very well written. So yeah, I understand if it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it just felt like, this is solid Doctor Who, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, I mean, a lot of people feel it's one of the strongest seasons as a whole, and I think, I can definitely agree. It's definitely up there as a really, really strong season. And if you're going to come into a season as a new Doctor, and you're going to put your mark on something, as the production team wanted to, I guess, to make it look a bit different. I mean, you've got to say it obviously worked. I mean, the show didn't kind of crash and burn off the back of it. Although interestingly, they didn't stick with it. They didn't stick with the direction of season 7. They decided to take it a different way.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's an alternate universe out there somewhere where season 8 onwards has the same feel and look as season 7. We have a very different set of episodes after that, I imagine.
We just need to slip sideways in time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, we'll get to some questions that people have sent in and continue to interact with the chat. One thing we're just going to flag is we've been talking for a while now about potentially setting up a Patreon on the Shallow Proclamation channel. And I can confirm that 'tis done. Ta-da! Look at that. That's me on the left and Paul on the right. I've got a moustache in that. I forgot about that. Man,
I was clean shaven, so we've gone the opposite way.
We've swapped. Yes. So I mean, it's all very self-explanatory. I imagine you guys have probably used Patreon before, maybe for other channels. But the whole purpose of this really is not to turn this into a massive money-making scheme at all. But just because we're both very passionate about this channel and we'd like to keep it going forwards and make our way through all the classic era, all the modern era related media. And then who knows, probably other extra bits that we want to do as well, maybe other sci-fi things. Who knows? We throw the odd curveball in occasionally, like a Thunderbirds reaction or something, which Sophia Millet picked up, Lady Penelope herself, the girl in the fireplace. So yeah, it's really just a way that you can support the channel, and if we do start to earn a little bit of money from it, then we can make higher quality videos, hopefully. So that's great. But it's all fairly self-explanatory. We have 3 different tiers: shallow, shallower, shallowest. And you'll notice that the perks aren't massively different between them. And it's really a case of, whatever you all have different financial situations, and if you want to support the channel, anything is great. And we don't want so however much you feel you can commit to. But the main thing, really, the main perk of all of them is that if you join on the Patreon, you will get access to all our full commentary tracks going forward. So we've put a few free ones for season 8 in the Discord to give you a little taster. But then all of the season 9 ones going forwards, and when we get to the modern era, all of those will appear on the Patreon. So if you'd like to watch any of those episodes with us talking in the background for the entire episode, I don't know why you'd want that, but some people do, then you can join the Patreon. And it might be that you don't want to join, and pay monthly, and that's completely fair enough. And perhaps you just want to join for a month, listen to the episodes that you're interested in, then cancel it and come back a year later when we've done some more. That's absolutely fine too. So completely flexible, and you can read there what some of the other perks are. But yeah, we're quite excited about it. And just to show that I'm not making this up, full commentary tracks for the first 2 of season 9 are already on there, and we're going to begin to release our highlights in the coming weeks. So so we're quite excited about this, and we'll see what happens, I guess. Do you have anything to add on that, Paul?
No, I think that you've kind of covered stuff there, and yeah, like you said, I mean, to be honest, I understand that people, we're all in different places, aren't we? Different circumstances. So if you're just going to keep on watching on YouTube as you have been, absolutely fine, not a problem at all. We'd love to keep having you and keep chatting to you guys on here and doing the live bits, chatting in the comments. We'll keep on doing that. That's not going to go away anyway. It's still on the Discord. So, yeah.
Wonderful.
As you were.
Wonderful stuff. Well, thank you. Well, so questions. Should we do some questions?
Yeah, sure. So we had a good number of questions coming in. So this one isn't necessarily specific to season 7. Paul Hunter, in fact, asked, he said, having seen 7 years of adventuring and 54 stories at the point that we were at, which individual story would you choose to rewatch for pleasure on a rainy bank holiday afternoon? So I guess the question is for all of through from Hartnell, through from An Unearthly Child up to Inferno. It's a rainy bank holiday. You think, I just want some Doctor Who. What could I watch today? I mean, do you have something that you go, that's the one?
All right, on the count of 3. 3, 2, 1. The Chase.
The Chase.
We didn't even
need to. No, that's not even. We've not conferred. I promise.
I think it was out of sync but yeah, I was going to say the Chase. Yeah, so I mean, it's just brilliant, isn't it? I think again we're about the only people who like it.
Space pirates.
I hope you're joking. It does throw the Daleks under the bus, but it's funny. It's flipping hilarious.
Yeah.
Space Pirates, I will say, Paul, has a really interesting concept of the ship.
Oh dear. Now I would choose the Chase, and I think, and for me at least, like I said at the time, it's got such a huge nostalgia element from it being a kid and it growing up and it being in this box set and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it's the lasagna of Doctor Who. It's that kind of comfort food type stuff. So I definitely go that. If though for some reason the Chase was out of commission, I couldn't watch it for some reason, I'd probably pick something from the Troughton era,
right,
and likely maybe the Invasion bagger.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely something from there probably, but the Chase would be my first port of call.
Mind Robber as well.
Yes.
I mean, because it is probably one of my favourite stories of the classic era that we've seen so far, and that's fun as well. That has a lot of fun. What's he called? The superhero guy, the Carcass.
He's called Carcass. He is called Carcass with a K, I think. Carcass. Yes.
Carcass. Yes. The Tarkus. Brilliant. Any other questions?
Yeah. We've got a couple here. So, H to Shane. I think I'm saying that right. He said, for the season review, let's play Fantasy Doctor Who producer. If you were the production team back then, what, if anything, would you change? So, did you have any thoughts?
7.
Well, this is more season 7.
Yeah. That's a tricky one. I don't think I would change anything about Inferno. Silurians, a lot of people would probably say remove the Crumhorn, but I'm not going to say that. I mean, I did like Liz. I would have liked a bit more warmth in the Doctor companion relationship, but that might just be me being used to the modern era. It was certainly an interesting dynamic, and because she's sort of a scientist, she's an interesting foil to the Doctor. And it's interesting that in season 8 which we'll get to in our season 8 review, that Jo is obviously a bit more. Well, no, she's obviously incredibly intelligent as well, but they've made more of a kind of disconnect between the Doctor's way of thinking and Jo's way of thinking. So the Doctor's kind of having to bring her up to speed a lot more. Whereas Liz, they very much almost put her as the Doctor's equal, don't they?
Yeah.
Intellectually. And I don't know. There were some really nice moments actually in Inferno with the alternate reality Liz.
Yeah.
That was ironically probably the most moving part of their relationship, even though it wasn't the real Liz.
Yeah.
The Doctor was kind of talking about, getting into science and that kind of thing. But I don't know if you felt that, but I didn't get a sense of warmth between them. Maybe that was very deliberate, but they were kind of like colleagues.
Well, interesting. So my thoughts on what would I change about the season, I think it's interesting that you've gone down the Liz road, because I was going to talk about Liz. So I think I would keep everything basically the same, because I think it works well. I mean, a few, maybe a couple of people said, some of the 7-parters, maybe 7 parts is a little bit long occasionally for a story. You could knock it down to 6 or whatever, but I don't know. On the whole, I didn't feel they were really dragged or anything. We had a few questions actually about what are your thoughts about Liz Shaw. Another one said, how effective a team of regulars do you think the Doctor, Liz and the Brig are in this season? So if there was anything I would change, for me actually, I really enjoyed Liz, and for me the thing I would change would be that I wouldn't sack her for season 8. I would have rather kept her on, and I've been quite surprised actually, because when I think of the Pertwee era, and I think of the Third Doctor, I think of the Third Doctor and Jo, because she's such a sort of stalwart character for the Doctor. But yeah, I found I really liked Liz in that one season, and I wished that she got more to do. I wish we got to see more develop. I think because they were equals, I think there was a respect between the characters that from the off. That I like, and she's quite sort of she has a bit of a laugh with the Doctor as well. I think sometimes she's not afraid to sort of make fun of him.
That's true. And if she had been on for another season, maybe we would have seen that develop more. And there's an alternate version out there somewhere where Liz stayed on another season. But
absolutely, yeah. So I think, for me, if I could change anything, I would have kept Liz on and just looked to develop that more. And I think it actually works to have it. I think they were a really nice little duo, and I think that could have developed more. And I think as I think we said in the comments, that it's a real shame she doesn't get a proper send-off.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with. Like, what?
Yeah. And did you see someone said at the beginning of I think before we even started, someone said today would have actually been her 84th birthday, Caroline John.
Oh, yes.
So
I can't find that comment.
So I think that was right near the back at the beginning.
There we go.
There you go. So how appropriate. Paul Hunter tells us there. So I think it's a real shame. That's my thing, that the character doesn't get developed. I think someone did say that she did some work with Big Finish, the audio stuff. I've not heard any of it myself, so it would be interesting to see how they developed her there, because sometimes companions who either got like kind of not a great deal in the series or sometimes annoying in the series have been developed much better on audio than they were. Yeah, and at least anything was better than Dodo's send off. Let's be honest. So
she's in the country. She's having a lovely time, and she's feeling much better now. That was so funny.
Yeah. And then what else do we have? So Bobby Dancer said, how surprised are you both how surprised are you both at how quickly you adjusted to the grounding of the Doctor, turning adventures in space and time into issues on present day Earth? I mean, did you? So again, for me, I just know that that's what it is coming into it. So for you, how much of a shock was it, and how much did it make you kind of go, "What? This isn't right"?
It's really quite funny watching back some of those reactions, because it's like each story I was sort of thinking, "Oh, maybe he'll fix the TARDIS this time," and no, and then And actually, season 8, which I won't spoil yet, but well, everyone's seen our reactions to them yet so far, but that has a recurring feature, which I was wondering if would come up in the story, and it turned out.
You say you say things in this thing, and I'm just like this.
Yeah, you have a very good poker face, actually.
Say nothing. Like
Paul's poker face. But I mean, yeah, I think it was certainly a shift, and we talked earlier on, didn't we, about how it's a completely radical kind of change for the show. But I liked it from a creative point of view of setting yourself that limitation, and so I wasn't. I mean, I think there was part of me that was looking forward to see Pertwee's Doctor actually use the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we've seen some of that now in season 8. But yeah, I liked it. I liked the fact that it was so grounded. Yeah, I think it's a feature of season 7, not a bug. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good expression. Yeah, I was thinking earlier, like it is undoubtedly the biggest shake-up to the show so far, barring regenerating the Doctor and recasting the Doctor. Although the move to Troughton from Hartnell, although I mean that is huge, the rest of the show stays largely similar in terms of what it looks like and the way it operates. Whereas this is just a complete about face, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in that sense, you might argue that it is the biggest change, even before the up and above the above and beyond the regeneration. But yeah, again for me it works, and I don't remember as a kid like watching it and ever thinking, oh, it's weird that he's not going off to space. Like, I mean, I think I knew he was kind of grounded on the Earth, but it never bothered me. It never seemed like an issue, because probably the stories are so good. And a lot of people say that. A lot of people have been putting in the comments recently saying there isn't a bad story in the Pertwee era. Some would say there are a couple of little, slightly clunky ones, and some that are not quite as strong. But there's nothing which is absolutely atrocious. So, which obviously is subjective, but yeah, I don't think it damages the show at all. Yeah, so I'm glad you kind of adapted to it quickly as well.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, and I suppose this one kind of ties in with that, doesn't it? I mean, Rebecca Burgess said, do you prefer the previous format of new location and time period every week, or do you prefer the new unit-based format of staying in the same place and letting the threat come to the Doctor?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. That do you go to the threat, or does the threat come to you? I did a video on my other channel recently about how every horror story is either you invite it in or it invites you in, which is an unnecessarily pretentious way of putting it. But yeah, I think it works. I think it's kind of like, I mean, part of you wonders if all Doctor Who was that, the threat coming to him, you'd start to think, I mean, flipping heck, give Earth a break. Like,
well,
like one catastrophe after another.
But that even in the first series of the Eccleston, like in Eccleston's season, everything is Earth related, isn't it? So there's not a single story that. Yes, absolutely, yeah. But there is that sort of grounding of or trying to link it back to humanity in some way.
Yeah, RTD was very big on that, wasn't he? I wonder if he was quite influenced by season 7 for that.
Or maybe it was just sort of the Pertwee era in general, like even wider. And interestingly, I mean I mean we don't want to step too much on season 8's toes here, but probably the story I've enjoyed least so far is the one story where the Doctor actually went to space, colony in space. Like that was the one which I found quite hard work. Strangely, so I was like, can we just get back to Earth?
About agriculture.
Yeah, farming, like on this planet randomly somewhere.
We ended up just identifying X-Men characters.
Yes,
lookalikes. Yeah. No, but that's a good point. Do we have any other?
Yeah, I mean the other one is a slightly random question. I mean, I can think of something, but I don't know if you had from Titan Sci-Fi, who said, we had a few stunts in season 7. Is there any that stand out for you? Now, for me, like the one that always is in my mind is the one from Inferno where the soldier shoots the part Primord man on top of the silo, and he does this big fall. Because I think I said at the time, at that stage, it was like the biggest fall ever done on British television or something like that. And it was done onto like a crash mat. And someone posted a picture, didn't they, in the Discord, I think, from a book of him falling onto, like, was it cardboard boxes? Maybe cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
That was on the Discord server somewhere, which was really lovely. And that just completely random fact that the guy who shoots the man is then the same man who then falls off. So he's also the stuntman who does the drop. So for me, that stands in my mind. Don't know about you.
Ridiculous, wasn't it? Yeah. No, I agree. I was going to say the bit where the Auton falls down the hill just to annoy you. But we keep getting drawn into season 8. But yeah, no, that one was very good. I'm trying to think what others we had falling off the. Did Ambassadors had some good stuff, didn't it, with the chase, as you say.
Well, I mean, that's something that we noticed through the whole season is that there's a lot of kind of action stuff, isn't there? Whether it was gunfights or a bit of driving, bit of a chase, helicopters, all that kind of stuff, little action scenes, ambushes. They certainly put that to good use because they've got this, at this point, they've got that stunt team, Havoc, doing things for them.
Yeah.
So you'll get, again, that's another thing that gives the season a very distinctive feel over what we've had before, where we haven't seen loads of that stuff. So the fact you're getting more location stuff, often more stunts done on location, more action scenes. It's just a lot of fun, really. So
Location.
Liz going over the railing.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember that?
At the little weir thing.
Yes, that's right. By the weir, of course.
That was good. Yeah. So strong season. Best season of the classic era so far. That we've watched together. Well, discounting season 8, obviously, because this is our season.
I mean, it's definitely the best Pertwee season we'd watched up to that point.
Let me see how you got to that. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it's really tricky, isn't it? Because it is so different. So I think I said when we finished the Troughton era that the black and white era in the sort of 60s, the Hartnell and Troughton eras, feel like their own thing to me, and then it moves into this other phase where it becomes something else again, and it's hard to kind of. It almost feels like apples and oranges. Like if you went back and looked particularly at Hartnell's seasons and then compared them to what we're getting now, it just looks very, very different, and it's hard to say like, oh, this is definitely better than that. They're very different things, but very enjoyable on their own terms, though. Yeah,
I agree. Should we do this? How would
oh
you
yes,
rate
of course we
stories?
didn't. So for me, I would say I would put Inferno at the top, Spearhead from Space second, and then I'd do Silurians and Ambassadors.
Okay, I think I agree, except I would put Inferno, Spearhead, then Ambassadors, then Silurians. I like Silurians, but I think I enjoyed Ambassadors more overall because of the eerie atmosphere.
Sure.
But
well, there you go. And actually, Paul Hunter said Ambassadors, Spearhead, Inferno, Silurians. So again, that's another combination there.
Inferno second to last.
Can't be everyone's cup of tea, can it? So everyone likes different things. So yeah, and I agree. It's with Sam there. Spearhead and Inferno are super close. It's a close one. I ummed and ahed a little bit in my head. So
Inferno managed to stick the landing a bit better, I think, didn't it? Spearhead is slightly.
Spearhead finished with the intergalactic bumhole, so that was.
I wasn't going to mention that, but yes.
A bumhole so good they thought we're going to bring this back in the next season.
Yeah. Well, There are no bad ideas, is what they say when they're working on scripts, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a terrible feeling that that comment is one of those things that can be taken out of context and used
Really?
against me.
Oh man. Well, it's been a pleasure, Paul, as always, and thank you everyone for watching. I mean, yeah. Maybe you could put in the comments which Doctor you first encountered our channel on. How many people have started watching during Pertwee? How many during Troughton, and how many during Hartnell, the OGs?
I like just reading Peter Dundas's comment.
It's all right. Oh, good to see you, Peter. Yeah, man. But it's been a journey, hasn't it? We said now we've done season 8. We've done over 300 of these.
Yeah. Worrying, isn't it? Like
it is. But like at this point, I now think we're going to do this, Paul. We're going to finish this, because when we started, I was like, there was part of me. I'm going to be honest here. There was part of me that was thinking, I don't know if we're actually going to be able to keep up the momentum.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we've reached this point, because it feels like we've broken the back of the classic era and we're showing no signs of stopping.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think we're on a roll now. We've come through some of the hardest parts, I think. You know, there's going to be ups and downs, but there's lots of good stuff to come still as well. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
The thing I'm most excited for is watching the Whittaker era with you the entire
Even I don't know how I'm going to react. Like, I wonder if I have this terrible feeling I'm going to get to it and be like, it's actually a masterpiece. I just never realised. Like,
where's Ryan? Patagonia.
Oh dear.
Actually, that was in the one Whittaker episode that was quite good. Power of the Doctor.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that was a little bit better. But
you can do
it.
Fishy boy.
Fishy.
Reference to our reaction to the Underwater Menace.
Is that? Oh, John G says we're almost halfway through the classic episodes now. Is that true? Is that right? Because in terms of, although it feels like we've got lots of Doctors to go, episode number wise, yeah, we might be.
I think I forget just how long the seasons were for Hartnell and Troughton.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like 40 episodes in each one, wasn't it?
Well, you think when we do a season review, it'd take us most of the time just to mention each story. Whereas in this one, you're like, it's just 4 stories and you're done.
I mean, it kind of was. The story makes no sense. Like that essence energy thing at the end, and she's just like, "You're chained up, but just channel all your power into the ground, and then you'll be free." And it's like, first of all, why didn't it think of doing it that before? Second, it kills them in the process. But it made up for it by it brought back old Doctors, and it actually used them well, which was unexpected. And Ian. That was powerful, wasn't it? So for all my misgivings about the Chibnall era, and the fact that story was a mess, I got to the end of it and I was like, you know what? It felt like a well-intentioned tribute to Doctor Who.
And how good that we'd finished that, well, you know, we'd seen all that. So for you to be able to have seen Ian, because otherwise you'd be like, who's this guy? You know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Demons of the Panda.
Yeah, there were lots of things.
The one with the Pating was quite a good episode, wasn't it?
Oh dear. We best not say no more, because it will just. I can feel my blood pressure rising already.
But anyway, yes. So we've got a long journey ahead of us, but we've covered a lot of ground, and really the biggest joy of this for us has been spending time with each other, watching Doctor Who, and alongside you guys. Like, you guys kind of make this work, because all your comments and trivia and putting up with us sometimes going off on tangents and chatting about random stuff.
Yeah.
Like soup during Marco Polo.
Yeah.
But really, the vibe of this channel is just to create the sense that we're watching the show together, and yeah, if you want all the kind of deep trivia lore stuff, this is not the channel to go to. Can I recommend Toby Haydock? But if you're wanting to just have the experience of rewatching Doctor Who episodes and kind of having a bit of fun and joking about it, and just sort of loving the show, that's kind of what we try to do on this channel, I guess. So thank you, everyone. We love you all, and we'll be back soon. Do you have anything else to add, Paul?
No, I mean, I just completely agree with all that. Like, you know, it's fun watching the show, but then it's also fun going through the comments and seeing all the, you know, there's lots of names. Like I say every time, we recognise the names that pop up on here and comment. We recognise the names of the comments under the videos on the Discord. So yeah, we have a lot of fun with it, and I enjoy that. So yeah, keep it coming, and we'll try and do season 8 a lot more quickly than we did season 7 review. So.
Yes, totally. we should add some more like little silly bits at the end. Do you remember that video we watched that was like shifty?
I do. I think about it often.
Yeah.
Anyway,
done this. That's very kind. Too kind.
Top Gear of Doctor Who YouTube reviews.
Well, we better end it there. Let people get some sleep. But yeah, check out the Discord. Link to the Discord if you're not already on it in the description, and also the Patreon in there as well. But thanks so much, guys, and we will see you yonder.
Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.